and welcome to Just Do It, a Dewey Brothers podcast. I'm Alex,
I'm Eric.
and this week we got a whole bunch of hard-hitting news stories, Eric.
Oh
I'm
my
not
gosh.
sure which one we're going to cover first, but we're bringing them to you hot and fresh this week for Just Do It, Dewey Brothers. We're out here reporting in the field, yeah.
So, Alex, there's a lot of important things going on in the world right now, and we need to be the ones that are promoting it, okay?
Yeah, we got to be covering these hot stories.
This is extremely important to me. I know. First things off, I want everyone to know about my current situation in the world, which is I got some seriously messed up toes, baby.
All right. Well, Eric, I don't think people need to know about how messed up your toes are. That's a little personal, Eric. I think instead we should talk about
no,
this.
Alex, I'm adamant about this. So the doctor was cutting them up, slicing them up. Now they're going wild, Alex, and the people need to know, okay?
Eric, how about instead we run this delightfully charming story of the 31 pilot whales that washed up on a New Zealand beach last March? I think that people would much prefer to listen
Alex,
to the rotting corpses of pilot whales as the interesting sounds actually they make when the blubber kind of like the fat breaks down and makes like a wooing noise.
So Alex, that's very interesting. Like, the woo is something I'm here for, but unfortunately, Bilo the hamster does not support animal violence, and I'm gonna have to nix it from the program. Anyways, that doesn't make sense because we have a lot more pressing things to talk about on this podcast. One being, of course, the Middle East. Alex, Afghanistan and the Taliban are just that. This is something that the people need to know. And we got to talk about what we can do to help the Afghanis, okay?
Eric, I got to cut you off right there. Bilo's given me the executive producer hamster nod of disapproval. He's saying the sponsors don't like that. Okay, we can't run that story.
Oh, yes,
it's
that's
too politically charged. There's a lot of attention and also IEDs. Right.
Very explosive topic, which, okay, I guess we can take a pause.
Yeah, it goes against one of our sponsors for this week's podcast, which is well-designed explosive devices. Don't have improvised explosive devices. The Just Do It Dewey Brothers podcast is actually news edition is actually brought to you by well thought out and thoroughly researched explosive devices.
Interesting take. Alex, that's kind of crazy that you're talking about explosives.
Yeah, no, don't worry, Eric. I found another. Oh, okay, go right ahead.
I was gonna say, what we really should be talking about, which is also linked to sponsorships, but this is something that's been a hot topic discussion for a long time, and by long time I mean very recent news. This is a headliner, and it's the flooding and torrential rain that Las Vegas is actually witnessing. It's causing Lake Mead to rise, and more importantly, ruining the rosé fields and the plantations and the vineyards out by Las Vegas of our big rosé corporations.
Eric, I'm sure that's really important, and the people really want to know, but I don't think I can cover that story because I have a gambling problem, Eric.
Oh, that Alex,
yeah, so like every time you bring up that
Vegas is just like the sin runs through you.
It triggers me. So like I don't, that'd be bad. I don't think I'd be able to cover that one. Instead, Eric, we should cover the puppy mills. What are the benefits? Which is a new think tank actually just dropped this piece, and it's listing all the benefits of puppy mills and why they're actually good.
Puppy mills, of course, being where you grind up puppies.
Puppy mills being where you try and get as pure a dog breed with the most number of deformities as possible. Okay.
Well, okay. So Bilo actually has our executive producer, very staunch opposition to eugenics and sort of designer baby style breeding patterns. Which is why, Alex, he's telling me to move on to the next topic, which is.
Yeah, fortunately,
this is
only for
something-
animals, right?
Well, Alex, obviously. So
Okay.
this is something, which Bilo is actually very promoting of because he needs that sponsorship money, which is Jeffrey Epstein's ghost is offering a large sum to support our pod. Along with he has also other backers like O.J. Simpson, Bill Cosby, and R. Kelly.
And why do they want to sponsor our pod, Eric?
Well, they feel like we are a last bastion of free speech and anything goes sort of journalism, that they believe we would represent them well, and I gotta stand with them.
Oh, Eric, I don't think that's going to be possible because I just, your toes, they're so messed up. I don't think you're going to be standing for anybody, which is fortunate because it would be a really bad look if we adopted that position for the podcast.
Okay, so
Yeah, instead, Eric, we got to cover something that's much, much more exciting, something that's really going to sell our image to everybody, and that's the rivalry between the Netgear CAX80 internet router and the Netgear Orbi. Okay, what are the benefits of the Orbi over the CAX80? It might have fewer features, but it's a cool round shape.
Alex, I can't believe you brought this up. First things first, Orbi, I will not discuss Orbi on this podcast ever. I can't do it. Or bees, on the other hand, the wonderful little balls of water or whatever's in them that, feels squishy and you can fill pools with. Marvelous. Great YouTube products right there. But Orbi, no, I'm done. I can't talk about it. That's why I would like to talk about something much more prolific and deserving of the Just Do It podcast, which is how there is actually, and I have proof of this. I've seen a video or something. There is no link between carbon emissions and climate change. Okay, that all that flooding that's going on around the world and the droughts and the floods, and it means nothing. Okay, no, not anthropologic at all.
Eric,
Anthropogenic, that's the word.
I got bad news for
Talking
you,
about
Eric.
anthropogenic, I think we should drop the anthro and make it eugenic. I mean, nope, that we already said we weren't talking about that. Yep, no anthropological causes for climate change. You heard it here first.
Eric, I want more than nothing for that to be true. I mean, that would be wonderfully fantastic. Unfortunately, it appears that our podcast has been hacked by. That's
no.
right, Eric. It's unfortunate. The head of the moon, the president of the moon, no, the
Al
moon,
Gore?
the moon emperor Al Gore himself has hacked our podcast.
Love that man.
Yeah,
He's wise.
and he's patching in Bill Nye the Science Guy to say,
Bill.
Yeah, Bill is saying that it turns out whenever we represent this problem, we don't represent the sheer number of scientists that believe that are pro anthropogenic climate change. Eric, it's something like 99.9% of scientists.
Alex,
That's more than the scientists
Alex,
can agree that Martha Stewart was good.
Well, Martha Stewart was good, but I'm gonna have to cut you off, Alex. You are dropping off way too many numbers for this this discussion, this topic. I can't handle it anymore.
That's right, Eric. Okay.
You know
I'm sorry.
That's why.
I'm sorry, Eric. We can talk about something that only involves number 2 pencils and number 3 fine markers. That's right. The latest craze taking this nation by storm is huffing Sharpies behind the bleachers with the homies. Everybody knew that huffing Sharpies behind the bleachers with the gals, with the hot date, that's so 2010. Now it's all about taking care of the homies and getting high behind the bleachers.
That's interesting that you would talk about that and the drug use rampant amongst our teens within
right. I have a whole segment where I go undercover and huff a bunch of Sharpies. Can we run that on this week's podcast?
No, Alex. Mainly because we do not have enough time because we have a more pressing matter, which is of course briefly mentioned, but it's Eric's pussing toes. That's right. They are just vile.
Whoa.
Eric, no one needs to.
No, I'm cutting you off there, Eric. We have to talk about something much less controversial than your frankly disgusting secretions out of your lower
My
digits.
nail bed.
Okay.
My nail bed has seen some things,
No, we
Alex.
need exactly. So I think we need to talk about something that everyone can agree is much less controversial: the Burkina Faso Mali border dispute. Now,
Oh dear, Alex, what? What are you
I
talking about? My good friend is Molly. Okay, Molly and I go hang out underneath the bleachers and snuff sharpies all the time. What? I am not talking about her border conflicts. Okay.
I'm sorry, Eric. I didn't know that you had a friend Molly. I'm so sorry. Well, Eric, I guess that just wraps up our whole news segment. I think we're
I
out of
think
stories.
we're out of stories.
Yeah.
I'd say actually pretty well done. Like I think we got our point across. Definitely very articulate
Well, the
and
only thing.
not controversial at all.
No, yeah. I mean, hopefully, if we had more time, we would have run one of those stories. But instead, we're just gonna have to switch over to everybody's
Uh,
favorite segment,
of
questions from
course.
the internet. So
Which is
let's get yeah.
perfect, Alex, because I actually have a question that I think would do really well on this podcast.
All right, all right.
Um, Mainly because as cultural and historic sort of studious people, we always care about what's going on in the world
Of
and
course.
what has gone on in the world and where we can learn from history, not make the same mistakes. However, we are also a very culinary driven podcast. So that's why I have a question here from Soul Smitch, and he's asking, or she, we don't know their gender. They are asking, what extinct animals would you most like to eat?
Oh, actually, I was just thinking about this the other day. I want mammoth burgers, Eric. They got to be good. Okay.
Ooh, a
Those
mammoth burger,
cavemen
Alex.
were onto something.
So that's the thing. Do you think I also was thinking about mammoths? That's not, of course, what I was going to share with you because that's such a first world sort of ideologically kind of honestly
Well,
lame
now
answer.
that the
However, I
poles
will
are
say,
melting,
Alex,
Eric, it is possible to get mammoth jerky.
I
Okay.
yes, I was
So
just going to say
I think
mammoth jerky's coming back.
when we find fresh, never as perfectly preserved specimens of long dead ice age beasts, I think the first thing we should do is eat them teriyaki style. So,
I full heartedly agree. I was gonna say, so my guess is that mammoth. Do you think it's more about the flavor, or would it be the thrill of the hunt that sort of makes it tastier?
I hadn't considered that. Obviously, in our modern world, the mammoth burgers are just going to come out of, they're going to come packaged in tubes, like all of the finest quality meats. So
Mm-hmm. I've actually heard that the
that would
M in
take the thrill of the
spam.
hunt out. Huh?
I've heard that spam was ahead of the game, and before they went extinct, they were thinking of making a product called Spameth, which of course was just a larger can of mammoth meat.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure it would have been delicious. But I think you're onto something, Eric. Maybe without the thrill of a hunt, mammoth meat just won't taste as good. Maybe it won't sell
So
in the markets like
I
beef.
was gonna say, like, I've had elephant, and I mean I can't imagine that the hair, like the big thick wooliness, will be enough to change the texture and sort of density and the marbling of the meat. You know?
That's a good point. And I likewise, everybody's had panda, right?
Oh well,
So
pandas. Come on, that's you find that at your open air markets every Tuesday. Come on, you know, old
right.
Wow Chin sells some great panda.
Yeah, but I think Eric, we should get one of those rare, like one of those meats that's a little bit, kind of leaves some mystery to be figured out. And so
Mhm.
what animal are we bringing back using modern science? Just not because we should, but because we could. That tastes
For the
most
full.
similar to platypus, the most delicate of meats.
Well, Alex, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that we could probably bring back a nice fatty sort of extinct fish that would be downright delectable. Okay?
That would be good, but I want early mammal, Eric. I want some sort of large. I
Mm.
got it, Eric. The corkscrew burrowing land beavers that roamed the plains of North America
Oh,
20
that's
million
good.
years ago.
That's good. See,
Yep.
I was thinking almost saber-toothed cat, but But beaver,
Yep,
now
land beaver.
that
Yeah.
the land beaver, I'm honestly very intrigued with what that could be.
I think it'd be really good. And not only would it be good, I think it would be pretty close to platypus, one of my favorite meats. So
That's
Eric, I got
interesting.
another
So,
question for you. That's this one I fished out of the deep fryer of the internet, and it's also food related. Okay, so
hey,
that little
Alex,
crispy bit.
obviously we were thinking, on the same page. We were a little hungry, especially after that hotbed of topics we were discussing earlier.
That's true. So Critical Russ Theory asks, who called it cheese and not milk by the foot?
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, ooh. Well, I don't know what kind of answer you want, but I'm gonna give you the very scientific one. So, the reason it's not called milk by the foot is because back in the day, cheese was actually created in an imperial system. So they wanted to call it milk by the centimeter, but of course it doesn't sound right. Even milk by the meter, it sounded too close to multi-level marketing, and even back then they knew the MLMs were no good. So
Well,
when you think about it, they
well,
were
you
like,
know why
huh.
they had to default to cheese, Eric?
Oh, well, I believe it was the great cheesiest von
Close.
Dairyman.
Close, Eric. Actually, it was Arthur C. Cheesington who invented cheese. And as you pointed out, he wanted to do milk by the meter, but that wasn't catchy, especially as he had invented it right at the turn of the French Revolution. So
You know it. Those pesky French, they were all like, what's going on here?
he didn't want to, yeah, he didn't want to associate his new invention with the French, and so he just had to name it after himself, Arthur C. Cheesington.
Which
And
is it's actually very funny because he discovered cheese in a
yeah,
similar way to the man that first discovered yogurt, if you will. Which was, of course, he left some soiled milk just sitting out a little too long. Then it was like, you know what? Let's taste it. However, he did it very scientifically. So, it was a miracle because Sir Cheesington actually went around manor to manor, knocking on the door and being like, "Would you like my milk for sale?" And eventually he found that it was very hard on his body. So he actually got other people to sell underneath him. So he would sell the milk to them, and they would go around and look for other people to sell the milk under them, creating some sort of reverse funnel system, if you will. And
oh, I see, yeah, of course.
eventually, he had so much over like, he had so much milk, and a lot of people were like, they were trying to sell, but they were a little lazy. They didn't want to sell themselves, so they actually were busy. They also hoarded their milk, and eventually the milk turned solid and became cheese. And he was like, "That's it. This is great. Cheesington. This is all for me. I have a ton
It's
of
actually,
cheese.
Eric,
Cheesington. There we go."
not a lot of our guests, not a lot of people that listen to this podcast know this, Eric, but you know the term for a scandal, right? How they add gate to something to signify that it's a big scandal, right? Like
Oh, of course.
Watergate, right? Or Burgergate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that actually originated after Arthur C. Cheesington's Cheesington scandal broke,
Oh,
okay?
oh, of course.
Now, they decided to call it Cheesegate after the estate where he was hoarding all of this the milk gone cheese.
Oh, of course.
He actually
Interesting.
lived on, yeah, the Cheesingtons lived on the Cheesegate estate. That was a family estate. And so because of the Cheesegate scandal, as it ended up being called, it was a huge all everywhere.
Oh, I mean, yeah, a bunch of people
1794.
were dealing with this cheese, and no one knew what it was because obviously it hadn't been
Exactly.
invented yet. They were like,
And
"This milk it was rancid."
and so many people lost their money that's why it's been burned into our psyche ever since. That's why it's always, this gate, that gate, because of the Cheesegate estate.
Of course, of course.
All right,
Alex,
Eric.
we
We can
thoroughly
only
answered that
have
question.
we only have enough time for one quick question, so we can
So
lightly round this one.
I have a quick
Yeah.
question. Alex, this goes out to all the people who failed their driving test. How?
Oh well, for me it was easy. I didn't hit the cat. Turns out if you run over a cat in the driving test for defensive driving summer school at Essex High School, that's contracted out to another driver,
Private man. Yep.
private guy. Yeah. If you run over the cat, you get 10 extra bonus points, and then your test is out of 20, and that will offset you blowing through the stop sign, even though in your defense the stop sign was hidden behind the A pillar at the time.
Of course, of course.
Yeah,
So,
that's how
I
you
know.
fail your driver's
Yeah,
test. Yeah.
obviously that's obvious. I mean, come on, you're young, naive. You forgot to hit the cat. So, Alex, the way that I failed my driving test was, of course, not being drunk enough. Okay, I showed up
That'll do you.
stone cold sober, and the driver instructor was like, excuse me, do you expect to drive me around? You were the designated drunk driver, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't know, and he's like, oh no no no. So then he made a little note on it on his card on his thing. I did my parallel park, my Vermont turnaround, my hill start, all perfect. And then I did hit that old lady, but he said that was fine, and I actually got bonus points because that was his mother-in-law, and he really did not like her. Um, what else was there? And then so not being the drunk driver would
Yep.
definitely hurt
That'll
me.
do
So
you. Yeah.
I got those points back from hitting his mother-in-law. However, I had just eaten a whole lot of bad cheese. It was Cheesegate 2.0, okay? And I was just stinking up the car. This thing was so I got points off for um going against the Geneva Convention because there was chemical gas inside of that car, and he failed me for that.
Man, that's that's how it happens. All right, Eric, it's time to wrap this podcast up and thank our sponsors. And I'm going to start off with a podcast sponsor we already shouted out right at the top of the program. Well thought out explosives. No improvising here. When you get your suicide vest, make sure it's by the makers of well thought out explosives.
No boy. I would have to thank Big Rose coming out with their new Las Vegas inspired wine, which is of course the diluted body rosé. So a whole lot of floating bodies. Lake Mead's just overflowing with excess water from their torrential storms, and this new bottle has a little hint of mafia sort of enemies and decomposing flesh, along with diluted water and rosé. So get your bottle today.
Yep, mobster corpses and Las Vegas raw sewage are what give it that unique quality that you can only find in Big Rose Blackjack Edition. This podcast is brought to you by the Cheesington Estates, no longer at the Cheesegate Manor, which was seized by the British government in 1795.
Rightfully so.
But they weaseled their way out of it and are still around peddling their cheese. So if you want to get into a reverse funnel based non-MLM, it's an MLM pyramids like scheme, then just join the Cheesington Estates.
Alex, I would have to thank none other than let's see, wait, I had it. It was on the tip of my tongue. Oh, that's right. I was going to thank all of the lovely sponsors that I've been advised against saying their names, which rhymes with uh and also
And don't forget that I'm deaf. That's it for this podcast. We have to thank our final sponsor, Homegrown Hops. They've been harvested. They're in. It's time to start making beer now. Homegrown hops.
Alex, we also could not have done this podcast without the local doctors at my regional podiatrist office, making sure my toes are and really just you should bleep this out because I'm gonna say some terrible things about what's going on with these bad dogs.
No, this stays in.
No, I'm not doing it. It's too disgusting. My toes are gross, y'all.
That has been Just Do It, a Dewey Brothers podcast. I'm Alex.
I'm Eric.
For the love of God, man.
Just send it.